I guess when you're on a boat in the middle of the ocean, not a lot of news reaches you. And I just found something out and I decided I should make a video about it. Hang on, I'll explain. Here's what we're talking about today. Remember this girl? Yeah, I think pretty much everybody does. I had pretty much put her out of my conscious thought process after the Karen Reed trial and didn't really think, like I said, a great deal more about her. She's kind of insignificant in the grand scheme of things. I moved on to the following cases and I continue to do that. But this last week, I found out that Kelly Dever resigned from the Boston Police Department. And so I'm going to try to put up here a link to the video where several months ago I pointed out that she was not going to have very much of a police career going forward because she couldn't be trusted to truthfully describe what happened. If you have false memories, you are always going to be tremendously impeachable, and she testified to that under oath. And so the point that I made in that video, and that I'm going to make again because I have been proven right now, is that they did not have her best interests at heart when they told her to give testimony like this.
Did you observe anything unusual that stood out in your mind that occurred, pardon me, in the Sally Port while you were on that ship?
So we've discussed this previously. I can't make that statement on the stand because I've been provided information released by the defense that it was not a memory, that it was a distorted memory. Therefore, I can't state it because at this point it would be a lie. I cannot make that statement that you're wanting me to make on the stand because I've advised that that would be a lie. So when I saw that information, it made it clear to me that there was a distortion of the timeline, and the false memory I created, I provided in good faith, but I retracted immediately, being provided evidence that it was not possible.
Officer Dever, did you go on to say in that interview, quote, you never saw them leave, them being Brian Higgins and Chief Ken Berkowitz. You never saw them leave, but you recalled thinking to yourself that they were in the Sally Port for a wildly long time together in there, end quote. Did you say that?
That was my recollection of the time.
Okay.
So yes.
So you've seen some of the footage of the goings on in this case, correct?
Yes, nothing with her. I did not watch her testimony.
Were you aware there was a sequestration order?
I don't know what that means, so no.
You're a sworn peace officer. You don't know what sequestration means
No.
in terms of witnesses not
No.
watching the proceedings in order to affect their testimony.
No, I wasn't aware.
False memories are a little different than having no memory. If you have no memory, somebody says, did you sign this document? And you look at it and go, no, I didn't sign that. That's different than somebody testifying, I have a clear memory of signing that document, but apparently it was a false memory. I mean, of the two situations, which of those two witnesses would you give more credibility to? In my own mind, I'm thinking, well, if they look at it and go, boy, I never signed that, that would be a lot different than saying, well, I remember signing this, but apparently that's a false memory. You understand the difference. And when they told her that she had a false memory, essentially, she either lied the first time when she said she saw this, or she lied the second time when she said she didn't. And the thing that was most annoying about her sticking to that terrible story, because I thought Alan Jacks did a great job of breaking that down. The really pathetic thing about that is that she honed in on the lie. She continued to essentially manifest that she really did have a false memory. And I just don't understand how that can be. Now, maybe she did have a false memory, okay? If that's the case, then clearly she either has something wrong internally upstairs that allows her to have false memories, or she has a history of hallucinating things that never happened. Either way, I don't want her carrying a gun and holding a badge, because I think somebody like that could say, "Oh, yeah, he had a gun. I don't know what happened to it. Maybe it went down into the sewer, but yeah, he had a gun. That's why I shot him 6 times." So you have to be really careful about investing the trust of the community in somebody who has false memories. Anytime that woman would have testified going forward, the first question she would have gotten on cross examination was, "How do we know this isn't a false memory?" "Well, I saw it. I know what I saw." "Well, you knew what you saw initially in the Karen Reed case, didn't you?" "Yes." "You told the FBI that, right?" "Yes." "And then after you had a meeting with somebody, you went back and told them something different. Isn't that the truth?" "Well, yeah, but it's because I had a false memory." "So how do you know this isn't a false memory?" That's the kind of thing that, even if the guy's on camera, even if he's on her body camera, you're going to be wondering whether or not she's really credible, whether she's telling the whole truth. And certainly, videos don't tell the whole story. Lots of times when videos don't tell the whole story, you can see a lot of times where somebody puts a video up that says, this happened, the police did this. And then when the body cam footage is released, what you see is, yeah, they did that, but it wasn't unprovoked, like the message said or the Twitter account said. It wasn't something that just looked like the cop was trying to be a bad guy. It was clearly he was trying to do what was required of him to do. And a lot of times it's easy to jump to the conclusion that the video tells the whole story when it doesn't. Um, One of the things that I think that creates a problem, one of the reasons it creates a problem is because reaction time is a lot slower than observation time. You can see something and immediately look at it and perceive a danger. But if you have trained yourself to deal with danger, as most police officers have, your reaction time is going to be fairly quick. And sometimes, somebody turns away at the instant when the police officer shoots, and it makes it look like they shot him in the back. Well, they did shoot him in the back, but they were trying to shoot him in the front. There's a great scene in Justified, which again is not real life, but there's a great scene in Justified where the guy says, "You shot me in the back." And the fictional marshal on that series says, "Well, if you wanted me to shoot you in the front, you should have been walking toward me." And I think a lot of police interactions do tend to be like that. Not all of them. I mean, there are bad cops out there. But the main point was, I suggested at the time that this was going to come back to haunt her, and apparently it has. Now, the real issue here is, could she be hired by another police agency? Sure, she could be hired by another police agency, but the problem for them is they're still going to have a Brady and Giglio problem, meaning that they're still going to have to disclose her history in order to satisfy the requirements of the Brady decision. As we all know, it requires the district attorney to turn over any evidence that is exculpatory, and Giglio, which requires them to turn over any evidence that is impeachment material, such that their judgment or their observation skills might be called into question. And so that's what's going to happen. Now, could she get a job as a security guard? Probably. Could she get a job as a private investigator? Probably. But then again, if you get her a job as a private investigator and she has to go and testify in court, she's going to be subject to the same problems. Because I don't think anybody in the Boston area is ever going to forget Kelly Dever, because Alan Jackson called her Kelly Dever and she corrected him, Kelly Dever.
Did we read to you, were you read the exact same thing that I just read to you on that phone call?
Like, you can't remember my name. I don't remember.
The issue there, I think that made an impression on a lot of people, as well as the whole false memory thing made an impression on people. But I'm going to take another different tack, and you may disagree with me here, but I feel some compassion for her because I think she desperately wanted to be a police officer. I think she felt like when she reached the Boston Police Department that she'd reached the pinnacle of her career, that she was where she was always supposed to be. And then she testified to the FBI, one thing that got back to the Boston Police Department, and they said, hey, we can't have cops turning on other cops. I think that's pretty much what the commissioner told her, although nobody is ever going to admit to that. That's just my opinion, right? It's not a fact, it's just my opinion. And then they gave her the idea of saying, well, just say you had a false memory. And when they did that, they clearly did not have her best interests at heart. In fact, I think they had her worst interests at heart. And when you think about it, that makes some sense too, because first of all, they probably recognized that she was willing to tell the truth, and that implicated a police officer, so she couldn't do that, but she did it anyway, and now they had to go fix it for the other police officers that were involved, and that made her unreliable, so they gave her some magic words to say that turned out to be a spell on her. It's, like I said, it's easy to feel sorry for Kelly Dever in that regard, but I don't ever feel sorry for somebody who lied directly under oath, and if that's what she did, then it's hard to feel sorry for her. Again, I make no judgment as to that. She may be telling the entire truth. I don't know. But it certainly looks to me like she was not telling the truth when she said this whole false memory thing. And I think either way, the fact that she has false memories is impeachment material. Everybody and their dog is going to use that in a case. So she kind of undid herself. And if she had been thinking it through, if she'd had enough years under her belt to know what the natural and probable outcome of that testimony would be, then I think she might have testified differently, but we'll never know that. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you being here today. If you have the opportunity today, try to do one kind thing to help somebody else. Any kind thing will do. Buy somebody a Coke, get them a cup of coffee, anything that makes their day better. That would be a way to help make the world a better place. Because after all, isn't that what we're all after? Now, YouTube has a few things that they think you might be interested in, and they're going to be showing you that right up there.